join me in the call to awareness. Come, let us dwell in God's shelter. Let us dwell in God's work of art. The earth is the Lord's, and God's earth is our home. We live in God's world. We are not alone. We share this life with the heavens and the earth, with the waters and the land, with trees and grasses, with fish, birds, and animals, and with all our brothers and sisters. God is good, and everything God makes is good. God is love, and everything God makes is love's fruit. Let us worship God.
The reading this morning comes from Job 12, 7 through 10. But ask the animals, and they will teach you, the birds of the air, and they will teach you. Speak to the earth. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In God's hand is the life of every human living thing, and the breath of every human being.
Good morning. My name is Will Fuller. I'm walking down the river of life today to talk to us about part of the environment, environmental justice. Now, when I was a small child, I had a nurse, what we call a nanny, named Lizzie. I loved Lizzie with all my heart. And she was more of a mother to me than my own mother. Now, my family lived in a big white house in a nice, clean, safe part of town. But Lizzie lived in a small, dark house next to the gas works in a whole other part of town that was dangerous and dirty. Now, the air smelled of the big, round gas tanks that loomed over Lizzie's house. Now, as a child, I didn't think much about Lizzie's house. It was in a whole other world. I never went inside. And on the few occasions when we drove her home after work, it was kind of an adventure. We go to this strange, dangerous part of the world where they never walked there, and it smelled of exotic odors of that big, blooming, fascinating gas tank. Now, we here in the United States, we live in a big part of the country, in a nice, safe part of the world. Our global nurses and servants live in another world, of small, dark houses in a run-down, dangerous part of the world. Their air smells of the gas from coal-fired industrial plants, open sewers, and polluted waterways. So when we talk about cleaning up the environment, we need to talk about cleaning up the dirtiest parts of the environment and the homes of our fellow humans in those places. We need to recognize our part in promoting the dangerous industry in countries whose people are desperate for income. We test our dirty nuclear bombs in remote, to our country, parts of the Pacific. We export our dangerous, obsolete computers to China, where small children break them apart with hammers and squat barefoot in the toxic runoff of our broken bits of our cast-off technology. Now, I'm not pointing a guilt-inducing finger at us, blaming the nasty United States for its thoughtless arrogance, any more than I would point a finger at my own family for its class-conscious treatment of Lizzie in the south of its day. We've been carrying on in a thoughtless way like we've carried on for years. This is the way we lived. But I am, however, I've got to point out the need for thought, for change, and encouraging us that we have the means to change. Now our task is to be more thoughtful, more aware, more our steward selves. Our nation is not the leader it could be and should be for environmental justice. We are, in our attention to technical issues of degrees of warming and tons of CO2, we often overlook the human part of our environment. But we in the United States, and we here at Kairos-Milwaukie, and we here at Ekalesia, Samoa, we have the means to be leaders for justice. We have the American and the Judeo-Christian values that bring the magnificent choir of sounds halfway across the world of the God that is right here among us, in our heads, in our places. We have a commitment in the Western civilization to fair play and justice that goes all the way back to Magna Carta. And we have the common reverence for the common person to promote environmental justice. Our astronauts took pictures from space of our big blue marble. There's a picture of it, made in China, of that blue marble we all live on. And look how small it is, and how round our people's world is. As pollution from China reaches Oregon, as the internet connects Africans with Australians, as our winter tables are laden with fresh fruits from Chile and New Zealand. I went to the store today, and here was these grapes from Chile, and kiwi fruits in New Zealand, right there in Portland. We have daily evidence that we are all in one world. There are no remote places that we can ignore. There are no dark, dirty, dangerous parts and neighborhoods that are not part of our own. We live on a globe. What goes around comes around. And as the sun sets in one country, it's rising in another. The cycle of our days and years and eons brings us once again to tomorrow. What we make of our globe and how we treat our neighbors, it's up to us. We can change. We must change. And as surely as the sun will rise tomorrow, given the will to act on our values, we will change. And we will do this not just for polar bears or spotted owls or the Arctic ice cap. We'll do it for Lizzie and Lizzie's children and our children and the Lizzie who is ourselves.